February 8th, 2021 meeting of the Caldwell County Board of Education is called to order. We are happy that you have joined us this evening, and it's good to see each one that is here in the room with us tonight as well. We have had a couple busy weeks with the board. We visited on January 26th 4 schools. We went to Valmead, to Davenport, to West Lenore, and to Gamble Middle School. We always get into schools and seeing what's going on in those schools, and very pleased, and noticing that protocols are being done quite well, and so that was reassuring to each of us. We also had a work session last week, and we had the opportunity to go to Granite Falls Middle School, and we had our work session in the library there at school, but we also had the opportunity to tour the new building, and it is going to be extremely nice and a much needed improvement for that school. The rooms are much bigger, and it's just going to be a beautiful place. We hope that by early April, and this is what we have been told, that by early April, possibly even the end of March, but we should be able to get into the building there, because we are transitioning the students from the old building into the new building, so that the old building, a portion of it can be renovated and the other portion can be torn down. And it's also during that period of time, during the spring, that they're going to be starting work on the gymnasium down there as well. So it was quite interesting to get into the building down there and see all the work that they have done. Also, we announced at that meeting that last week was National Counselors Appreciation Week, and certainly we want to congratulate and tell our counselors how much we appreciate them. Of course, we appreciate everybody in the school system. It's been a difficult time, and we appreciate teachers and the entire staff and the great work that they have done. Also, you know, last night was the Super Bowl, so you'd say that would be the end of the football season, but in actuality, today is the beginning of the football season. February 8th, today, was the first day of practice for our high school football teams. So I understand that on the last Friday night of this month, we will have our first game. May be interesting to see whether that's going to be a situation where there'll be snow on the ground or whatever, but nonetheless, it's been a challenging year with our sports teams. The volleyball has completed, the swimming is complete. I think also the cross country is complete. We're into soccer, and we're into basketball, and now practice for football is starting. So our coaches are doing a great job in trying to coordinate everything for these events. Next item on the agenda is the invitation for the board, which was going to be Mr. Chris Bumgarner. By the way, he will be here shortly, but I'll go ahead and do that in his place tonight. We know that each day that we have is certainly a blessing. We're closing in on, I guess, pretty close to about 11 months of this pandemic. And it's been a very difficult time, very trying time for everybody. And we certainly do appreciate the job that Dr. Phipps and his staff, our teachers, and our staff throughout the county has has been doing. We really, really do appreciate all the hard work that's been put in. It's also been very difficult for students. It's been very difficult for parents as well. It's been a trying time for us as a Board of Education. I appreciate the job that the board has done. We constantly pray for the safety of our students and our teachers. We need to be mindful of all of our emergency people, EMS, doctors, nurses, and all the others that are involved. And we need to remain vigilant in our thoughts and prayers as we consider all those that are working daily to help us get through this pandemic. Would you join me now in a moment of silence? Thank you. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and I'll call on Dr. Katrina McKellen. So it is
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda, and the board's had opportunity to review it. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
I do, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to add item 11C, and I would like to have a conversation and be making a request for a revision to the 2020-21 calendar. And it's just a simple change move of a remote learning day, and I'll explain that. But that would add item 11C, calendar revision for the current school year.
Okay. Do I hear a motion that we approve the agenda with the amendment?
I'm going to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the motion passes. Next, we have our approval of minutes. And we had two sets of minutes from January the 11th. Was our regular school board meeting. And then we also had a work session on the 5th of January. So we have those two sets of meetings. Do I hear a motion that we approve them by consent vote at this point? Is there a motion?
Chairman Pendleton, I move that we approve the January 5th work session minutes and the January 11th regular session minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And motion passes. Next item, I'd like to recognize fellow board member Mrs. Ann Edwards, who has some announcements.
It is my pleasure to make these announcements on behalf of our board. On February the 25th, the board will have another visitation day. We plan to go to Horizons, Collettsville, High Brighton, and Kings Creek. On March the 1st, we will have our next board work session. And on March the 8th will be our next regular Board of Education meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Edwards. Next, Dr. Pitt, do you have some additional announcements?
I do. I just want to make an announcement that the Ag Expo that we've been talking about for over a year now, that was postponed last year. We were looking at trying to do an in-person event. This year, we've determined that we're going to have to move it to a virtual format. We'll be sharing information that it'll be an opportunity for students to be able to interact with folks from around the county on a couple of given days, and we'll be sharing that with you. But we've decided that we're not going to be able to do the Ag Expo in person, but we are going to do it. We're also going to be able to distribute the shirts that we had that many of the sponsors helped pay for last year, so we're excited about that. I also want to let the public know that the governor had a press conference last week that created a great deal of confusion. And the press conference, I think, made many folks believe that we were opening our doors to students 5 days a week for middle and high school. and we simply can't do that. We'd like to have our students back 5 days a week and be on a normal schedule, but the current CDC guidelines do not allow us to serve middle and high school students without having the 6 feet of social distancing. So for us, it's business as usual. Things have not changed. And that press conference was geared more toward the counties that have not had students in person. And I just want to make sure that folks were aware of that. But as we're talking about COVID, I also want to share some good news and the information that we've received locally. It's been told to me that the research folks from UNC have indicated that the peak of COVID happened 2 Tuesdays ago. And it's going to be a sharp decline is what we're anticipating as we move forward. But it's not a time to drop our guard. We need to make sure that we continue to follow protocols and that we're doing what we're doing to keep practices in place to ensure everyone's safety. So I know it's laborious and tiring and there's a great deal of fatigue, but we need to continue what we're working on. We're also working with the health department, local health officials on the vaccine for our staff members who want that, and we'll continue to share information as we get to that point. But that's an ongoing conversation, and just wanted you to know that there is some good news in all of the bad news that we've been dealing with, and we hope that we're turning a corner here and we're on the positive side of the slope of the curve.
Thank you, Dr. Phipps. Our next item is our recognitions and honors section. And I'd like to call on Mrs. Libby Brown, Director of Community Relations, to direct us in this portion of the agenda.
Thank you, Chairman Pennell and Vice Chairman Branch, board members, and Dr. Phipps. It is an honor to recognize the character education representatives for the month of January. This is part of our Caldwell County Schools education program for character ed. And this month's representatives will receive a $25 gift card that is provided by Blue Ridge Energy. So thank you to Blue Ridge Energy for that sponsorship. The character ed trait for January is optimism. And these students exemplify hopefulness and confidence about their circumstances and about the future. And they set an excellent example for all of us. So thank you to all of you who have joined us via Zoom, and we appreciate you being here. We'll start with the elementary character education representative for January. Brody Nevins, 5th grader, Gamewell Elementary School, Principal Adrian Dula, and teacher Jennifer Brown. You can probably spot them with their smiles up on the screen. And I'm going to read from the nomination form a little bit about Brody. Brody is committed to making the most of his day by spreading sunshine to everyone else. Every morning, Brody hops out of the car, eager to start his day. He greets everyone with a smile, with giggles and cheery "good morning," regardless of who they are. With lighthearted steps and movements, Brody springs into the classroom ready to learn something new. His confident nature and encouraging spirit are contagious to everyone he meets. It is obvious that Brody believes with his heart that something wonderful is always about to happen. The world would be a better place if we all had just a fraction of Brody's optimistic outlook in life. Thank you, Brody, for making this world a better place. So congratulations to our elementary character education representative for January, Brody Nevins. And Brody, would you like to say something? You'll have to unmute your mic.
All right, now, go ahead. Say thank you.
Thank you,
Say I love Miss Brown.
Mr. Brown.
We're so proud of you,
Have a
Brody.
good
What
day.
will you say?
Say thank you.
Thank you.
Let's give Brody another round of applause.
Bye.
So all the students who are recognized this evening will receive a nice medallion and a certificate of appreciation from the Board of Education. Next, we'll move to the middle school character education representative for January. Brittany Watson is an 8th grader from Hudson Middle School, and Katie Elliott, I saw her up there. She is with us this evening, so thank you. And I also see Brittany. Brittany has faced unthinkable health challenges during her young life. Yet through surgeries, treatments, and hospital stays, she continues school through Caldwell Connect and has chosen to create her own joy. She is a bright, shining light to her teachers and fellow students. Despite the setbacks from illness, she is choosing her own destiny and facing it with grace, a smile, and a fire for life. So congratulations to Brittany Watson, 8th grader at Hudson Middle School. Brittany, would you like to say anything?
Thank you, and thank you to all the staff. Thank you, and thank you to all the staff and teachers down there at Hudson.
You're welcome, and thank you. And thank you, Mrs. Elliott, for being here and supporting Brittany. So just these are wonderful examples of optimism in our school system. We also have with us Carl Slade, a senior at High Brighton High School, who has been chosen as the high school character education representative for January. Carl Slade is a senior chorus student at High Brighton High School, and Bernadette Watts, his chorus teacher, is also with us this evening, and of course his principal, Courtney Wright. He has faced many obstacles during his childhood and adolescence. He has maintained a positive outlook and determined attitude through all life's blessings and battles. He works over 40 hours per week at the coffee house and takes honors classes. No matter what challenges Carl faces, he is determined to succeed. He has been accepted to Wingate University and UNC Greensboro. He plans to graduate from college and pursue a career in music, and he has been mentored by Mrs. Watts for several high school years. And we're just so happy to see the High Brighton group here with us this evening. And congratulations, Carl. So let's give Carl a big hand. Carl, would you like to say a few words?
First off, I would like to start by saying thank you to Miss Wright for nominating me for this. It's an honor. I'm super proud to be a Panther. First off, love being a Panther, and I love that I'm in such a supportive school system. If it weren't for my teachers and my peers that are in Caldwell County, I would not made it where I am today.
Well, we're very proud of you, Carl.
Thank you.
And for the example that all three of our representatives are setting for their peers at school and helping them also to practice that character trait of optimism. So let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you, teachers, for being here, and principals. So let's give them Okay, we also want to recognize the school this evening. South Caldwell High School received the College Board AP Computer Science Female Diversity Award. And Julie Hall is the assistant principal at South Caldwell High School, and she joins us this evening. So welcome, Julie. Out of 20,000 institutions that offer AP courses, South Caldwell was one of 831. Recognized in the category of AP Computer Science principals for 50% or higher female representation. So congratulations to Julie, who does a lot of the curriculum, and the counselors at South Caldwell High School for encouraging female students to explore these non-traditional career paths. So let's give a big round of applause to South Caldwell. And we also have another recognition for South Caldwell High School this evening. Abigail Eckert, and is Abigail with us? Let's see. Abigail, is she with us? She is, okay. All right. So Abigail is with us, and she is a junior at South Caldwell High School. She has been named the North Carolina champion for her MOS PowerPoint 2019 exam score during the 2020 fall qualifier and selected to compete in this Certiport's 2021 Microsoft Office Specialist U.S. National Championship. So we have one going to compete in the Nationals from South Caldwell High School. Abigail scored 1,000 points out of 1,000 points. She had a perfect score. In about 29 of the 50 minutes allotted on the PowerPoint 2019 credential exam, her score and time have qualified her to be the North Carolina champion, and she will compete in the U.S. National Championship. Congratulations to Abigail, and best to you in competition this summer. I think it's in June. And Lenora Chase, Lenora is there, so welcome, Lenora. Lenora is the CTE teacher at South Caldwell High School, and she's very proud of her Microsoft Office student. So congratulations to Abigail and her journey onto the national championship. Abigail, would you like to say a few words? You'll have to unmute yourself there.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. We're very proud of you. We know you have a good team around you to get you ready for the national competition. Ms. Chase and Ms. Hall, who's with us at South Caldwell, and the other teachers and administration at South Caldwell. So we have a lot to be proud of this evening with our character education students, our South Caldwell High School Award, and our student who's going to a national competition. And that's all. Thank you.
Congratulations to each of you. We are so pleased and happy for you. And the rest of our meeting is going to be a business meeting. You're welcome to stick around, or if you have something else that you might want to engage in, now would be an appropriate time to sign out. But again, thank you for being with us tonight, and congratulations again. The next item on our agenda is public comment. And as of 3:30 this afternoon, we have not received any public comment. So we will move on. I recognize our superintendent, Dr. Don Pitts, this morning.
I'd like to bring your attention to item 7 for the appointment to the Board of Trustees, Caldwell Community College and Technical Institute. As you may or may not be aware, we have the community college has a Board of Trustees that consists of 15 members. 4 of the trustees are appointed by the Board of Education of Caldwell County. They run in terms, these 4-year appointments that expire in consecutive years. And this year we have a term that Ann Smith has been serving that started July 1 of 2017. It expires on July 30th of 2021. I had a conversation with Mrs. Smith as well as Dr. Porch. They both would like to continue her service, and I'd like to make the recommendation that our board approve Ann Smith for another 4-year term serving on the trustees with the Community College Board. So I'd like to respectfully request that.
Do I hear a motion that we approve the recommendation of the superintendent?
I'll make the motion to approve Ann Smith, the trustee of community college.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any comments? I think we have, she's done a good job. I think we have 4 good people that a good point. But anyway, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Phipps. Next, call on our Associate Superintendent, Dr. Jeff Church.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Phipps, I have 2 items for your approval tonight. The first is the 2021 Needs-Based Capital Fund Annual Report. This is an annual report that's required on an annual basis to be submitted to school planning. And this tells how much of our $15 million needs-based grant for funding for Grand Falls Middle School that we've spent. As of January the 21st, we have spent just over $10 million of the $15 million grant for their construction. Respectfully request approval as presented.
Okay, do I hear a motion that we approve the needs-based capital fund report as presented by Dr. Church?
I move that we approve the 2021 needs-based capital fund annual report as presented.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Seconded by Ann Edwards. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And motion passes.
Thank you. Second item for your approval is athletic funding to help supplement athletic teams at the K-8, middle, and high school levels. And this is to offset costs from each school, and due to the fact that there are no spectators in the stands to generate ticket sales. The total package cost reimbursement for the schools is $125,700. And you can see how it's broken down in your board packet. I respectfully request approval as presented.
Okay, do I hear a motion that we approve the athletic funding as has been outlined in your agenda and presented by Dr. Church?
Chairman Pennell, I'll make a motion to approve the specific athletic funding as presented.
Thank you. Motion from Chris Becker, and do we have a second?
I second that.
Joe Sims seconds the motion. Any comments or questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Church. Next, I'd like to recognize the Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Bill Britton.
Chairman Pennell, Vice Chair Branch, members of the board, Dr. Phipps. I have several items for you this evening. First is item A, human resources, usual and customary information items. Those 6 pages are only information items and do not need action at this time. Next is subject B, human resources, usual and customary action items of contracts. Before we move or do any action on that request, I ask you to please look at page 2 there. The last name, we recommended Miss Jessica Price as the interim child nutrition director for the next year through March the 2nd. That is to replace Guy Gardner, who is currently on a leave right now. So, with that being said, I would like to respectfully request that those action items are approved at this time.
Okay, do I hear a motion that we approve the action items, human resource services, those that are usual and customary?
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the human resource services usual and customary action items as presented.
Okay, motion by Chris Baumgartner, and do we have a second?
I second the motion.
And Edwards with a second. Any comments or questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And motion passes.
Great, thank you very much. Subject C, human resources, usual and customary action items. This is our substitute list. I respectfully request approval of those items as presented this evening.
Okay, a motion to approve the human resource usual and customary substitute list is presented by Dr. Griffin.
Chairman Pennell, I move that we approve the usual and customary action items on the substitute list as presented.
Okay, a motion by Ann Edwards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Chris Becker. Any comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. And finally, subject D, as our board transfers for 2021. As you see, total transfers requested are 13. Transfers not recommended board approval are 1. Transfers recommended board approval are 12, for a total for the 2020-2021 school year of 1,669. I respectfully request those transfers to be approved as presented this evening.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the February board transfers for 2021?
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the February board transfers as presented.
A motion made by Chris Bumgarner, and do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, second from Mr. Wayne Knight. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Griffin. Now, yes.
Isn't it time for their transfers from 21 the upcoming school year? Isn't that?
What's going on right now? Yes. To the end of the month?
Yes.
February
20th.
Yeah, okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Griffin. Next, I'd like to call on our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. David Johnson.
Mr. Chairman, board members, Dr. Phipps, I have two amendments tonight. The first one is budget amendment number 9 is for the state public school fund. It's an amount of $116,393. This amendment covers PRC 63, EC Special Funds Development of Day, Transportation, and PRC 001 for new teacher orientation. Second budget amendment I've got is number 10, is specifically for the federal grant fund. It covers some additions to federal grants, PRC 165, digital curriculum, and PRC 166, learning management systems, and other programs, PRCs as requested by directors. If approved, bring the total budget to Caldwell County Schools to $140,235,491.12. I would like to request that those be approved as I've submitted.
Okay. Do I hear a motion that we approve Amendment 9, the State Public School Fund, and as well as Amendment 10, which is the federal grant fund?
I move that we approve budget amendments 9 and 10.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Teresa Branch. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
And Mrs. Edwards has seconded the motion. Any comments, questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And motion passes.
Also have item number 10D, which is the audit contract for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021, as required by General Statute 159-34. Contract again is with Anderson, Smith & White, PLLC, the same audit firm we used last year. I would like to point out that the contract does represent an increase of $1,000 for the price of the contract, for a total of $33,000. If you guys are familiar, we've received quite a lot of COVID relief funds, just in state to the tune of about $2.4 million. Some of these will qualify as major programs. Just for instance, the CRF PPE PRC was $464,000, and the audit firms felt like with the extra requirements that they'll have with looking at the additional PRCs and additional requirements set for looking at the CRF funds, that $1,000 increase was appropriate. The last page of the packet for the audit shows the peer review, an indication of pass from the standpoint of quality control for accounting and audit practice. I hope you guys were pleased last year with the presentation from Mike White. He's a partner from the company. Last year was the first year we had used Anderson, Smith & White. We had to make some changes for understanding, I guess, and representation from our previous firm, excuse me, and we expect everything to be really smooth this year. The contract does require board approval, which is unique considering most service contracts don't. That's for the local government commission's requirements.
Do I hear a motion that we approve the audit contract with the firm Anderson, Smith and White PLLC?
I make a motion we approve the audit contract with Anderson, Smith and White PLLC as it is presented.
Okay, motion by Mr. Joe Sims. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Chris Bumgarner. Any comments or questions?
So is this our second year of using this company that we're saying?
Second. Any additional questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And motion passes.
Great, thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Johnson. Next item on the agenda, our superintendent, Dr. Don Phipps.
Before we draw your attention to item 11, I'd like to start with 11A. And this is presenting to you policy 3530, citizenship and character education. We've edited this policy to reflect the character traits that we've adopted in Caldwell County. I'd like to respectfully request that we put this up for 30-day public review and comment period.
Okay, do I hear a motion that we place the board policy 3530, citizenship and character education on a 30-day comment period? Do we have a motion?
I move that board policy 3530, citizenship and character education, be placed on a 30-day comment.
Okay, motion made by Mrs. Teresa Branch, second. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dwayne Knight. Any comments, questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the motion passes.
Thank you. Item 11B would be the 2021-2022 calendar draft. And you have that, so you can pull that up. Our public, I'd like to share with them that our calendar will look different for next school year than it does this year. The allowance that was provided to us by the General Assembly to start school early has been taken away again. We continue to make the plea to give school districts local control when they start and end their calendar. The General Assembly has not done that to this point. This year was very helpful, but we're back to where we were before. And the law states that you can't start school any earlier than the Monday closest to August 26th. So as you can see on that calendar, our start date would be the 23rd. Our ending date would be June the 3rd. We're still working out graduation dates and some other things in the calendar. What you'll notice is absent from this calendar are the 5 remote learning days that we were required by the General Assembly to include in the current calendar. And those are not a requirement anymore. They're not reflected because they're not a requirement. So I'd like to request that we put this up for public comment, but I also want to make a comment that this does not include the early college or the Applied Sciences Academy. We're waiting to get the calendar from the community college to be able to move forward with them. But this would be up for public comment and review, and then we'll come back and revisit again in March.
Okay, do I hear a motion that we place the 2021-2022 calendar draft for a 30-day comment period? Motion.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to place the 2021-2022 calendar draft on a public comment period.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Chris Bumgarner. Is there a second?
Second.
And second by Mr. Chris Becker. Any comments or questions?
When is the actual election?
We haven't decided that yet. We're looking at 2 possibilities, but there's a couple of things we have to work out in terms of state requirements before we make that announcement. We'll have that announced when we approve the calendar.
Any others? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And passes unanimously. Dr. Phipps, you
Thank you. My final item will be 11C that we added to the agenda. And I'm not going to ask Kathy if she would, if she's got the calendar to put this up. The reason I want you to take a look at it, when we built the calendar this year, we were again required by the General Assembly to put in what are called remote learning days. And we put the remote learning days in and basically sprinkled them in the calendar so that we'd be able to meet the guidance and the letter of the law, not knowing that we were going to be on an odd schedule or a hybrid schedule. And it's been brought to my attention, and I know as we've kind of marched through this year, that if a student is on the B side of the AABB, they've missed days already in the month of January because of weather, which I have no control over. If it happens on a Thursday or Friday, then it happens on Thursday and Friday. But we've had students who have missed because of weather in January. And then you'll also note that the 15th of January was a remote learning day. And it seems to be falling on those B sections of the schedule. And looking forward, we have a remote learning date on the 12th of March. And what I'd like to ask our board to do would be to move that to the 15th, which would be that Monday. And that would at least spread it out so that it impacts the students on the AA schedule instead of BB, not to diminish that they not have days taken away from them with the anomalies in the schedule the way that the Bs have. Now, one other option would be to put it on a Wednesday, but we just don't know moving forward what Wednesdays are going to look like until we have some idea of where we're at. We could put that on a Wednesday, which is already a remote day, and it wouldn't have any bearing on the calendar or the schedule. So my recommendation would be for us to take a look at that. And I'm saying on the 15th, which would be a Monday, but it could very easily be moved to the 10th or the 17th and have it on a Wednesday. But we'd like for you all to consider that. And if we go ahead and make a decision tonight, that would give us a chance to give parents a month's notice so that they know what we're doing.
So basically your recommendation is to move March 11th?
March 12th.
Okay. March 12th.
No, we have to have 5. I mean, you could put it in another day, like the weather days that we have to reflect 5 remote learning days in the calendar.
Is there adverse effect of moving it to a Wednesday?
Not at this point.
I mean, if you got.
We have remote learning days going on Wednesdays already, so it would accurately reflect what those days are.
And Dr. Phipps, I was thinking sort of along the same lines, if we had it on the 15th, that's going to make your AA kids go 6 days in a row without school, is potentially either 16th or the 17th, either that Tuesday or Wednesday, which would break them up, not going that long without being in front of the teacher.
I would prefer a Wednesday because it has less impact on the face-to-face instruction. But again, I don't know where we're going to be the second or third week in March, but if we go ahead and put it on there, then we have that as a remote day. So I would recommend the 10th because that's the week that's already scheduled. Does that make sense why we're asking for that?
Yes. But could it be Wednesday this week?
Sure, it could be. It doesn't change anything if it's put on a Wednesday because we already have that. It would just be reflected on the calendar as a remote learning day. I just don't want that to confuse parents in any way.
Do we need to vote on that recommendation since we've already voted on that?
I'd like you to vote on this since it will be a change to the calendar.
So it's going to be motion to move, what date now?
Move the 12th of March. And you really could put it on any Wednesday, as Teresa has said, you could put it as the 10th of February, but I don't want to confuse folks thinking that we've created anything new. It's already a remote day on the 10th of February. We could just mark that as our remote day on the calendar and we would have met the letter of the law. The key to this is that the 12th of March would no longer be a remote day and will be an in-person instruction day for those students who are normally in school on Fridays.
Okay. Do I hear a motion that we approve the change as outlined by Dr. Phipps?
But what is
I
the
don't think we
change?
chosen a date.
Can we pick February the 10th? Katrina, is there any issue with that? Unless it's going to create confusion, I don't want to do that.
I hesitate because we may have some professional development scheduled by principals on Wednesday and to
I don't know,
do,
that'll give the schools
I
enough
mean-
time to change anything that they've already put in.
So how far out on Wednesday do y'all think we should go?
I think if you keep it the same week that it was originally scheduled and just move that day, that may be the best.
But the 10th is already a remote, how would that change anything?
It would take it away from that Friday.
I mean, if we look at February, if we look like it the 10th of this week.
I guess technically when you think about remote learning, then a teacher could take it as an optional planning day. Because that's the way it was written into the.
That's a good point to make.
legislation.
One of the pieces of the statute that we had is that these days that we designate as RL, remote learning days, have to be days the teachers take can take annual accumulated leave. So we may have professional development things that are already scheduled for the 10th of this week. If we did it this week, that could create a problem. So I think if we looked at a few weeks out, or if we kept it
So
that
if we
same
move to
weekend.
March the 3rd, that's three, that's 3 Wednesdays.
I think if you did the 3rd or the 10th or the 17th, would be okay.
It gives people time to understand the change.
Okay.
How about if I make
Which of those dates?
How about March the 3rd?
Okay. All right, do we have a motion to move that date to March the 3rd as has been outlined by Dr. Phipps?
I make a motion, we change the remote learning day from March the 12th to March the 3rd.
From March the 12th to March the 3rd. Okay, very good. Motion made by Chris Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Chris Bumgarner. So we're voting on the date being moved from March 12th to March the 3rd. Any comments or questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And motion passes. Okay. Anything else about this? No. Next, we need to go into closed session. Do I hear a motion that we go in closed session?
Chairman Kendall, I move that we go into closed session to discuss confidential personnel matters pursuant to the reasons listed on our current agenda.
Okay, motion to go to closed session by Mr. Dan Edwards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Chris Bumgarner. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And motion passes. The board will be in closed session for a short period of time. And I would imagine there will be, there is an item 13 that we'll need to deal with when we get back. revision to the board meeting schedule. Motion, if you're someone willing to make it, just to move April 19th, 2021 board meeting to April 12th. The reason it was put on the 19th to start with was that it conflicted with a national meeting that Son may be involved with. And since that's not going to be the case, although that meeting is going to be remote, much like our state meeting back in November was. So moving it back to the regular board meeting day is what we're doing, from the 19th of April to the 12th of April. So I hear a motion that we move April 19, 2021 scheduled board meeting back to April 12, 2021.
Chairman Penn, I'll make a motion. We move our scheduled board meeting of April the 19th, 2021 to the originally scheduled date of April the 12th, 2021.
Second the motion.
Okay. And I don't think we have any questions about that. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for being here. Do I hear a motion we adjourn? Joe Sims makes the motion, second by
Second.
Chris Baumgartner. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Have a good evening.